Hello, my name is Brian Eller, and with a lot of help from my wife, I've made this video about strategy and tips for the Tobacco Road Marathon. So here's a list of things I'll be talking about in this video, and feel free to skip ahead if none of this actually interests you, but I hope it does. So first I'm going to talk about my running story, my many attempts at the Tobacco Road Marathon, what the impact of weather can be on the race, what you can do for pre-race information and what to do before the race starts. Then I'll go into a little bit about nutrition strategy, and then finally the largest section about race strategy, and then after the race is done, some post-race information. So let's get started. To begin with, my running story. So I moved to Cary, like many folks, in about 2011, and I got a desk job. And I had been a pretty healthy individual up to that point in my life, but with my new desk job and my new lifestyle, I kind of started going out a lot, eating out a lot, and I kind of got a little chubby. And I tried to, still stay active and physically fit. And so I started doing part in a few local races. I didn't really train for them. I kind of just went out and did them. And so one of those races I did was the Tobacco Road Half Marathon, which I did in 2013. And this is a picture of me at the half marathon and a picture of my friend John, who was at the half marathon, who actually placed, and he won a bottle of wine, I think. But anyways, it was a fun time I had there. I finished the half marathon in just barely under 2 hours. And this was actually after a night of eating a really late night at McDonald's. I remember that. But anyways, this really, I really hadn't been running at this time. You can see I was kind of a little chubby, a little slower. But it encouraged me to, hey, I want to keep running. I want to improve my fitness. And so in 2014, I really started picking up running as a hobby, and I tried to eat a little bit better. So in 2014, I ran about 1,000 miles in the year. I was really happy and really proud of myself for doing that. And if you look at this graph here, kind of most of the miles were actually in the latter half of the year. So I joined a local running group. I would go out to the local runs clubs at the local bars, and I had a really great time meeting people and running. And I started doing a few races. And then I started talking to these people, and they started talking about marathons and ultra marathons and trail running. And I thought, okay, this is something I got to try out. I got to try to do a marathon. So I did that. I started my first marathon in 2015, which was the Tobacco Road Marathon, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But in 2015, 16, and 17, I really picked up running. And from just 1,000 miles in 2014, this is me picking up running, pictures of me running throughout different races. In 2017, I ran every single day of the year, and I ran over 2,000 miles, which I was really proud of. And I got in a lot better shape, and I really started going faster, and I really appreciated running. So this is me, and you'll see me outside running all the time in Umstead or on the Tobacco Road or on the American Tobacco Trail or locally in Cary. And if you ever see me, don't be afraid to say hi or take me aside or give me a nod or a wave. I'm happy to talk to anybody and just love to enjoy the outdoors. So now I'll talk about my attempts at the Tobacco Road Marathon. So I've run the Tobacco Road Marathon 3 times. In 2015, which I told you was my very first marathon, in 2016, and in 2017. And I'll be out there in 2018, and I hope to run there many more times. So I chose the Tobacco Road Marathon as my first marathon because it was local and because I heard it was relatively flat. And I did a lot of training runs out on the course before actually deciding to run, running the marathon, to really get myself familiar with the course. So I've run on the American Tobacco Trail many, many times. And if you've run that trail, you've probably seen me at least once if you've gone out there Saturday or Sunday. So anyways, in 2015, I was super pumped. It's my first marathon. I went out really fast. And everyone says don't go out too fast in your first marathon, or you're gonna hit a wall. But I was really pumped. I was really gonna go for it. I felt great. I've been training with some folks, and so this is a picture of me kind of coming up the hill. I'm doing great. I'm looking great. I'm running really fast, and I'm having a good time. And I'll tell you how it happened after that good time. Getting to the rest of the race. But I did finish, and I had an awesome team of people there with me at the end, and my wife made this hilariously awesome finishing poster, which says 22.6 plus 3.6. So tip out there, tell your significant others how long a marathon is before you run the marathon. But it was awesome to see so many people out there. John, you can see him in the back again. He was out there on his bicycle taking photographs of me, and that's how I have those cool photographs of me. And Propel, one of my other friends, he ran the half marathon, and we just had all kinds of people out there. It was super fun. But after this photograph, I basically collapsed on the ground and couldn't move for a good 30 minutes. So what happened between those first fast miles and the rest of those miles? Well, I finished the marathon in about 4 hours and 5 seconds. And this is a lesson for folks. When I was finishing the marathon, it read 4 hours and 46 seconds. So when I saw the clock, I just assumed that I was not going to make my 4-hour goal. But what I forgot to include is that there's a net time. There's a difference between when the gun goes off and when your chip starts running. So if I had started to run a little faster at the end there, I might have been able to break 4 hours. But because I just saw that it was 46 seconds, I just assumed that I was way off, my 4-hour target, and I wasn't going to make it. But anyway, so my goal is 4 hours, and I came slightly over it, but I was still very pleased to have finished my first marathon. As you can see from the graph here, and this is uploaded to Strava, and I'll show a few more of these in the coming slides. My run, when I started out really fast down here, this is good speed, and I slowed down, and I got slower and slower, and then I finally finished. So what happened? Well, let's take a look. So I started out going about 8:30 miles, a few sevens in there. I was going really fast, and then mile 22 through 26 happened, and there's some 10s, there's some 11s, there's some 12s even in there, there's some high 10s. So what happened after mile 13? So this is something about going out too fast and trying to stick with people that are maybe too fast for you. So I actually trained with about these 3 other ladies, and 2 of those ladies, I think all of those women that I've trained with have at one time or another qualified for Boston. And they are very fast, older women. And, not older, middle-aged women. Very nice women. Anyways, so I trained with them. I thought I could go as fast as them. And so when they started the race, I tried to keep up with them. Well, it turns out they were actually a lot faster than their training had indicated. And so me keeping up with them caused me to kind of burn out. And I just remember at mile 16, one saw me struggling, and she kind of hit me on my behind, and it was like, come on, Brian, kick it into gear. And I tried to keep running faster. But then mile 22 happened, and I just had to start walking. I got slower and slower. But I did finish. But it just goes to say, don't try to, follow someone that's going too fast. Don't try to go too fast. Run your own race. That's the lesson. And this will, lesson that you'll learn as you run more marathons. So 2016 came. I decided to sign up for the marathon again. I had some more practice at marathons, and I was able to run it in under 4 hours. And you'll see from this graph here, it's a little bit even split now here. I ran pretty even to the halfway point. There's a gradual increase, but I made my goal of running under 4 hours. And this race had actually very difficult weather conditions, which I'll talk about later. But you'll see from here, this graph, my splits are pretty even. They're within about 30 seconds of one another. I do have a slight positive split, but overall, I was pretty happy with this. I got under my 4-hour goal. I had a great race, and I made improvements from last year. So this was good to see. So in 2017, I ran the race again, and now you're going to see a big jump in time. Now I'm down to almost 3 hours and 30 minutes. So what happened between 2016 and 2017? Basically, I increased a lot more miles, did a lot more training, a lot more running, and there was great weather in 2017. And I also ran actually a negative split. So let me show you this negative split. So that means I was running, faster in the second half of the marathon than in the first half of the marathon. So the first half of the marathon, at mile 3.4, my average pace was 8:11. By the finish, I was going 7:59. And if you actually run a negative split in a race, they'll show you, what's your overall position over the race. And I basically passed 60 people from mile 3 to 26, to the very end, 26.2. And so I was really happy. This is my marathon PR. Tobacco Road is a flat course. And so I'm hoping to PR there in 2018, but, it depends on the weather and how you're feeling and a lot of things. But I think it'll be a good day. So now I'm going to talk about the wonderful weather at the Tobacco Road Marathon. So in 2015, the weather was actually not too bad for a race in the springtime. The weather was in the 50s. There was moderate humidity, but no real bad wind conditions. Nothing too warm, nothing too cold. The weather is variable at Tobacco Road, but just, when you're coming out of winter training, you're usually used to training in much colder weather. So be aware, if this is your first spring race, you'll have to adjust accordingly. And if it's warmer, might have to adjust your pace down a little bit. And if it's colder, you can go a little faster. So 2015 was actually a pretty normal day, I'd say, in Cary for the springtime at this time of year. In 2016, it got a lot warmer, actually, and the key thing to note is the humidity, which was 84%. So this is 70s, 84% humidity. It's really warm for a race. And, I recall, a lot of people struggling at the very end of the race. And I think a lot of people, did not account for that heat. If you keep the pace that you're intending to go out at and that you had trained for in the winter, you won't be able to maintain it in high humidity and moderate heat. So that's something to look out for. In 2017, again, you can see how it's very, very variable in Cary. So this is, I think, a little bit on the cooler side. So it's in the low 50s, high 40s, and just normal humidity. It's a cold day, a great day for a race. Again, some moderate wind, but nothing too bad. And the course is shielded, with trees on either side for the great majority of the race. And there's also a lot of runners in the race, so you're kind of shielded from wind that way too. So what's happening in 2018? This is just a prediction, but it looks like there may be rain. There's a few thunderstorms, some morning clouds. Also, the temperature will be in the 70s, and there is a decent amount of humidity. So I think we'll just have to see what it's like out there. But then, if there's rain, it'll probably cool you down. But if there's humidity, it'll be warm. So you just have to adjust, accordingly. So next, I'm going to give you some pre-race information. So, the official instructions, according to the organizers, are to arrive at 5:30 a.m. if you're being dropped off. There's a variety of ways to be dropped off at the race. There's a parking lot. You'd have to buy a parking pass in advance. There's some shuttles going there. I just say try to get there at least an hour before the race, so you can get it, adjusted. You can take some pictures. You can use the restroom. You can, get a little bit of nutrition in there if you want to, and just, talk to your fellow runners. So speaking of pictures, I'll be there. A lot of run clubs will be there. I encourage you to take your pictures with people so you have some fond memories of the race. And this is a local run club called House of Hops. Very nice people. So what's it like at the beginning of before the race starts? Well, they'll tell you that there's a lot of porta potties, and those are located, kind of along the starting line area next to the parking lot. There's actually also real bathrooms. You just have to know where they're at, and those are actually by the baseball field. You just have to kind of walk from the parking lot, kind of down this main sidewalk area, and you'll find these bathrooms there. There are very long lines for those bathrooms, so again, you have to adjust time accordingly. The porta potties also had kind of long lines, so it's just one of those things. You got to make sure that you are able to use the restroom before the gun goes off at 7 a.m. in the morning. 10 minutes before the race, they'll have you assemble along this area here in front of the starting line. There's no real corrals, but they'll have the pace groups kind of lined up, in their proper ordering, and so people just kind of organize themselves around those pace groups. The mayor will give a quick speech, and we'll have a national anthem, we'll have some music to pump you up, and then we're on our way. So here's a picture of the runner assembly area in the morning. You'll notice these kind of fences along either side. So those are kind of hard to jump over, a little difficult to. I would not recommend that. I think it's important to go around and through. But if you really need to at the last second, I have seen people hop those fences. I think people are actually hesitant to get toward the front, but it does fill in before the race begins. So speaking of pacers prior to the race, there's actually a lot of really good pacers about the course. They have everything from 3 hours and 25 minutes for the marathon all the way up to 7 hours. I actually know the guy who's doing the 4-hour 25 pacer. His name is Carlos. Give him a shout out if you see him on the course. And my friend John that I talked about earlier is going to be the 150 half marathon pacer. So pacers are awesome. This guy, his name is Rigo. He helped me pace me in 2017. He was a 3:35 pacer, and basically at the 3:35 pacer, they realized there's a lot of women who are trying to BQ around that time, so they were very precise. They were, within, seconds of that 3:35. So you can really tell that they take their job seriously and they do a good job at it. So now I'll talk about nutrition strategy. So GU will only be available after mile 10. I think that's the most important thing to recognize here. So I typically take, and a lot of people recommend, to at least have one energy goo every hour, or maybe one goo every 5 to 6 miles. So that means I recommend you take one goo with you. There will be plenty of goo spread out after mile 10. And I think actually that you probably get it actually at mile 8, but they say, in the notes there, mile 10. And if you have a particular nutritional need, maybe you just want to take that with you along the way. But I don't carry any water, and besides that one goo, I don't take any more goos with me. I think the course actually has lots of bathrooms and lots of aid stations, which I'll go over in the next slide. So there are plenty of water and nutrition stops along the way. These are the official stops, but you'll also notice groups of people that just decide to put up a shop next to the road with their own food or beer or snacks or bananas or whatnot. But I would just say this is a pretty well supported course, and I don't think there's any kind of need to carry any kind of extra nutrition on you, maybe besides that one extra goo. So now I'm going to go into race strategy. So here's what it looks like at the beginning of the marathon. And this is what it looks like at the majority of largish marathons and half marathons. So it is congested, and you just kind of have to accept that fact. And this doesn't mean, try to be this crazy aggressive driver and plow through all the people. Just realize that it will be congested and that you'll kind of have to just find a way to maybe you have to go a little bit slower at the beginning, but you can pick up your pace later to make up that time. But the important thing is, do not try to just sprint past people. Don't try to, start at the front if you're kind of a slower runner. Just go with the flow for the first few miles and accept that it will be congested. So what are my recommendations in miles 1 to 2? Well, enjoy the race. This is the fun part. You have all your energy. The music is pounding. There's all these people around you. Enjoy the race. Number 2, resist the urge to go out too fast. You're going to be so pumped. You'll have all this energy. You've been waiting around at the starting area for a while. Now you want to run, but you just have to resist that urge. And again, don't try to break through the crowd. Accept that it will be crowded. So the one major thing to notice in this first mile is that there is a climb right here. And this is actually kind of a significant climb, but you won't really feel it that badly right now because it's not even the first mile. But you'll thank yourself much later when you return along this course at mile 25, 26. The other thing to notice is you're going to take a right-hand turn on a green level church road here. This is a relatively flat section, but again, you'll be amongst many half marathoners here, as well as the full marathoners. And so again, it will be congested. It'll be kind of a slight downhill here, but you might be noticing the sunrise here. It's going to be a beautiful day, so just enjoy the scenery, enjoy the people around you, and just make sure not to go too fast. So what's happening in mile 2 to 4? So I think this thing is important, especially if you're listening to this video, you're watching this video, you understand that the course will split. So half marathoners at approximately this is mile 2.5 right here. Half marathoners are going to go left. If you're a full marathoner, you need to go right. And so the most people in this race are turning left. So do not turn left, turn right. And actually, you can kind of edge to the right side of the road kind of a little earlier than that. So you can try to run a tangent exactly to that point. And so the course will significantly thin out once you make that right-hand turn. So that's where you can really start getting into your race mentality, finding your right pace. You won't be jumbled up amongst all these half marathoners and full marathoners. The thing here is just try to keep a steady pace through this section here, and enjoy your time with half marathoners before you'll see them again in a while. So what's going to happen in mile 4 to 8? 4 to 8 is actually a net downhill. There's a few uphills, but you'll really notice that it's just a significant decrease in, well, not a significant, but it's a slight decrease in elevation. You'll definitely notice it. The path also has some dirt to the right and some pavement to the left. So you have your choice of what kind of surface you want to run on. I would suggest, I run on the pavement because I think you just go faster on pavement. But if you want to, save your feet some hurt, you can run on the dirt. I know a lot of people like to do that. Again, because this is a net downhill, it's early in the race, there's going to be this urge to speed up. Again, you have to resist this urge. You have to make sure you're keeping constant pacing. Conserve your energy. This is a marathon. So what's going to happen at mile 8 to 14? So at 8, approximately 8.5, you're going to do a switchback, and you're going to run back the way you come to mile 14. So along this pathway here. This is a net uphill. So again, it's important to maintain even pacing, and this will be spreading out a fair bit here. Now that you've kind of, it's the marathoners, and now you're kind of getting into your specific pacing. Once you make this turnaround, you'll be able to see all the other marathoners coming this way. And, as you're running out, you can be able to see some of the fast marathoners coming from the other direction. I think here it's, maybe nice if you can find a group to stick into, or, if there's a little bit of wind, you can find someone to draft behind. But just run smart in this part of the race. Do not run too fast. And just realize it will be a net uphill. So maybe you can decrease your pace a little bit if you want. So once we get to mile 14, that is approximately where we've gone through that split. And so once you run past 14, you will notice a ton of half marathoners finishing their half marathon. And this is where kind of I noticed there's still quite a few folks out on the course. So here you're going to enjoy a crowd of people. All those half marathoners are going to be cheering for you, and you're going to be cheering for those half marathoners. I would just say hi to people. Encourage your neighbors, give a high five if someone's reaching across. I notice there's a lot of crowds here because there's a parking lot, so you'll notice a lot of signs on the course. I remember seeing beer here. Have fun here, enjoy this part of the race. But beware. What should you beware of? Congestion. And yes, it literally looks like this, if not worse, on the course, especially if you're kind of going in the pace, the 3:30 to 4 hour pace. You'll notice a lot of people, and it's really congested. And maybe I'll just tell a little story here, but I remember I was running out, and the other group was coming back the other direction. So the full marathoners were coming this way along with half marathoners, the really fast full marathoners, and they are trying to BQ, right? And these half marathoners are kind of on the slower end. This is probably their first race. They don't run races very often. They were like 5 across on the trail, and this give kudos to the marathon pacer. He sprinted ahead, and he got those women to go like single file so he could get his group to BQ. Because literally seconds matter. If you have to dodge in and out, you're wasting a lot of energy. If you're dodging in and out. But again, I remind you to be polite to these folks. This is probably their one of their first races. This is kind of a casual experience. They have just every right to be here as you do. And so but it's something just to be aware of when you're on the course. So after you get through that congestion, you're going to go out to mile 19. So this is actually from 14 to 19. There have been some hills, but it's actually a net downhill. Which is kind of nice because, as you recall, from 8 to 14 had been an uphill. It's a net downhill to about 19. But from 19 to 24, you're going to be going back up a hill. And this is all kind of dirt, so this isn't pavement, but it's nice on your feet. It's a little scenic, but again, it's it's uphill. So you have to 19 to 24 is where the race gets tough. This is where people will be walking. This is where people are hurting. This is where, if you've been pacing correctly and you've been doing steady pacing, you'll be passing a lot of folks here. And if the weather's bad, this is where a lot of people, their race will this will just be the part where they sink. But remember, this is the hardest part. If you can get through 19 to 24, you're made. 24 to 26 is nothing compared to this 19 to 24. So once you get back onto this pavement here, just realize the race, you've got this. And there's going to be a lot of aid stations, a lot of people here, cheering for you. So just make it through 19 to 24. Again, it's an uphill. It feels worse than it actually is, but you can totally do this. So what happens in mile 24 to 25? Well, now we're back on the pavement. And here, I said it's, once you get to mile 19, or once you get to mile 24 rather, you got the race in the bag. Maybe not so true. This is where you have to survive. But you're on pavement now, and you're going faster. But even though you're going faster, time will appear to go slower, and your perceived effort will go up. But just realize this part is actually flat. Even though slight elevation changes will feel magnified to you, this is flat. You are almost there. Just keep at it on this one last section. So when you get to mile 25, you're making that turn back onto Green Level Church. And again, elevation changes appear magnified. I do recall hills here, but it's not really that bad. You'll just think they're bad, but they're not that bad. And this is actually, relatively from 25 to back when you get back into Thomas Brooks Park. It's actually a net. Well, it's a slight net uphill, but it's relatively flat. It's not a huge uphill. And then once you get this turn into Thomas Brooks Park, this is a significant downhill. So that uphill I was talking about earlier, this is a significant downhill, and you can sprint this thing. You will feel great. You're close to the finish line. I see tons of people take off here. This is where you should just burn all the extra energy you have. Use it on this sprint. And then finally, okay, that 26 to 26.2. Everyone forgets about that point 2. But there is a little hill here. But just realize, I didn't want to skip that little hill there, because if you get to 26 and you're just like, oh, Brian said it's going to be all downhill and there's an uphill, I don't want you to be mad at me. There is a small uphill, but you're going to see the crowds there. They're going to be cheering you on, and you're going to love it. And so you're going to use that sprinting from downhill. You're going to just use that momentum, and it's going to carry you up the hill. And then you're going to cross the finish line, and you're going to get your medal, and you'll get some food, and it'll be great. So now I'm going to talk about the post-race information and the party that is there at the finish line. So at the finish line, there is beer, there is this bread, there is chocolate milk, there is Papa John's pizza. I love Papa John's pizza. I can eat tons of Papa John's pizza. There's literally infinite pepperoni and cheese pizza at the end. Although the thing is, when you're running, you kind of, my stomach sometimes gets upset. So even though I'm, after the race, maybe an hour after the race, I'm super hungry. Immediately after the race, I'm not that hungry, but definitely have a few slices. You've earned it. Have a beer if that's your thing. Really, enjoy this part. You've done something awesome. And, if it's a cold, rainy day, make sure to get one of those post-race poncho things, the silvery things. Put that on yourself. Make sure to walk around a little bit so you don't stiffen up, Make sure to get a cool picture, with your wife or your girlfriend or with just your friends if you don't have one of those. And then I just want to thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great time running the race. I hope to be out there many more times. If you see me, say hi to me. I really want to thank a lot of people that helped me along my running journey, especially my wife and my friends, my family, and all the volunteers at the race, all the race organizers, all the sponsors. There's free socks here and that pizza. The race participants, every single training partner who's gone out there with me, every single person who gave me a friendly wave or nod on my many training runs on the ATT or in Umstead, and there's a lot of people out there. The Lifetime Fitness Run group, and also the Raleigh Trail Runners, who are an awesome local group. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you out there.